like to reconvene the Thursday, February 10th, 2022 Roanoke County School Board meeting. We were in closed session. Mr. Hudson, would you?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Roanoke County School Board come out of closed session for the following: to discuss ongoing personnel matters under investigation pursuant to the personnel exemption at 2.23711A1 of the Code of Virginia, and for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation, and consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to 2.23711A7 of the Code of Virginia. Also move to certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the school board.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you
Carol?
say me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Ray unfortunately had a medical procedure this afternoon, and he may show up late, depending on how late we're here, but he did want me to let people know why he was not going to be here. Nothing serious, routine medical procedure, so that's good. But and we do have Miss Fashani, who was read in to the meeting when we started at 5:30. She is out of town at the moment, but Cheryl, did you want to say hello to everybody?
Yeah, hello. I wish I could get the Wi-Fi going, but where I am, I'm actually, this is the best option I have. I'm in Houma, Louisiana this week, actually Houma, Louisiana, with my senior in high school son, Zach, and we're volunteering with Samaritan's Purse doing Hurricane Ida disaster relief. We had this trip planned for quite a while to give back, and we've been blessed, and we believe a blessing isn't a blessing unless it's been shared. So that's what we're doing. We're pretty dirty down here. We're basically taking houses down to the studs and ripping out moldy sheetrock, ceilings, carpeting, insulation. We've tarped a lot of roofs, hauled out a lot of debris, and it's actually quite alarming that 6 months past Hurricane Ida, people here are really still suffering. So we're just trying to bring them some love and hope, and we're actually having a good time doing it. So sorry I'm on speakerphone, but this is the best I could do at this time.
We're glad you could join us this evening. All right, item 2.03, action from closed session. We have none. Item number 3, welcome, public welcome. Just want to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Beautiful day today. Puxatawny Phil must be wrong, I think, based on what we saw today and what we're going to see the next couple days. But either that or he's a politician. Who knows? If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the Republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Okay. Item 4.01, announcement of changes to the agenda. We have none. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that. Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fatani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Did just want to comment on that just briefly. I did receive a few emails today about moving the public comment item down in the agenda. And the reason we did that, we had heard that we may get, we had 70 people come speak last time, and we heard we may have upwards of 100 today. So rather than inconvenience our student advisory council member and those few items that we did have that were moved up will maybe take 12 to 15 minutes or so. So we did not get anywhere near 100 speakers that we had heard may come, but anyway, that was the reason for that agenda change earlier, which was made yesterday. So, all right. Next, presentations and recognitions. Recognition of Glenver High School, the girls' 2021 state volleyball champions, Dr. Corey Franklin and Mr. Jason Murray.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Nicely. It's good to be here, and we are so proud to be with this team of ladies. Unfortunately, they couldn't all be here with us tonight. We have incredible athletes on this team, and as such, they are participating in other athletic adventures tonight, such as region swim and a basketball game. But before I turn it over to the coaches Rohrbeck, plural, before I turn it over to them, I just want to say a few things. I just want to thank you, ladies. The way you took pride in what you did.
Wow.
Okay. The way you took pride in your game and your energy and your enthusiasm really set the tone for this school year. It was infectious. It spread throughout the school. It spread throughout the community. I have never seen crowds as big as I did this year for volleyball. It was amazing. And I just want to thank you very much because we needed that. So thank you so much. We're so proud of you, and we're looking forward to next year. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rohrbeck and Mrs. Rohrbeck, coaches extraordinaire.
Come on up. Y'all, we wouldn't be here. Members of the board, Dr. Nicely, and all the central office staff, it's fantastic to be here. It's been a long time since I've been here to represent the volleyball team, and it's just an absolute honor to be back. So thanks so much for having us, our managers and the players that were able to make it tonight. Along with what Dr. Franklin said, we also have some girls that have commitments to travel volleyball teams. So these girls stay incredibly active, and everything they do, they put their heart and their 100% effort into it. So we're very proud of all of them. Specifically, the 5 players that could make it tonight are an outstanding representation of what you're looking at from the student athletes at Glenver. So just to take a moment to introduce, first of all, my family and then the players. This is my son, Luke. He is a first grader at Glenver Elementary. And come on. And he was in all our practices with us and was an awesome manager and tied with his sister here for the #1 Glenver volleyball fan. This is his older sister, Emily. She is in 5th grade at Glenver Elementary. And of course, the JV coach and my varsity assistant, my wife, Jen Rohrbeck. So I wanted to take a moment to thank my family for all of their support of the girls and of the program as we decided to come back a couple years ago to coach the volleyball program again. So with us here tonight, along with our outstanding principal, Dr. Franklin, and our athletic director, Mr. Murray, who are also incredibly supportive and big volleyball fans this year. We've got a junior defensive specialist, Farron Wilson, starting from the end, a junior middle hitter, Sydney Loader, and a junior outside hitter, Hannah Hilton, and a junior setter and outside hitter, Kara Butler, and a sophomore outside hitter, Jamie Forster. So what you're noticing there is there are no seniors here tonight. We did have one senior on the team. And once again, I think the thing I'm most proud about this team is not necessarily that we were able to win the state title, but of all of the hard work that they put in and their ability to work hard and also have fun in what turned out to be an outstandingly successful season. And I think, whether we would have won or lost at the end, I think I still would have been just as proud of them. We had a really, really awesome season in the spring, and we were able to rebound off of a tough loss in the regional semifinal and come back and take it all the way this year. So I'm really, really proud of these girls and their performance this year. And Dr. Franklin said something about this season, how exciting the matches were and how big our crowds were. I want to invite all of you next fall, as we had one senior this year, to get yourselves into the Glenver gym and to see these girls perform at the highest level of high school volleyball that you're going to see, because they are going to be absolutely fantastic again next season, and they are a lot of fun to watch. So thanks so much for all your support, and I hope you can make it out to watch this again next fall.
Congratulations.
Coach, we can promise to come see you as long as you promise to get them back here to see us.
We will be, I'm not going to promise we're going to be back, but we're going to do everything we possibly can.
Okay.
And did you at first think he miscounted 5? I thought there were 6 players up there, but then I met your wife.
She was a Glenver volleyball player. I'm not going to tell you what year, though. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, girls. That's awesome.
Congratulations. All right, the next item on our agenda, item 6.01, Report of Student Advisory Council, Ms. Taylor Holofsky. Welcome.
Do I start? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nicely. The Student Advisory Council met on February 2nd, where we had a question and answer meeting with Dr. Nicely. All representatives had the opportunity to address any questions or concerns with Dr. Nicely. We learned many things, such as how snow days are handled and answers to questions in each of our individual schools. We also got to know Dr. Nicely on a personal level, which we all really enjoyed. Along with this, we came to a final decision on our SAC logo. Finally. We discussed our latest plans for our Student Leadership Conference, and we decided that we are going to hold it on Friday, April 29th here at Central Office. We are now starting the planning process and looking for speakers to present at our conference. Lastly, I wanted to thank Dr. Nicely for taking his time to speak to our council. We really enjoyed having you. Thank you all for your continued support of the Student Advisory Council.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay. Item 7.01, School Spotlight. And before we get to that, this is something that Dr. Nicely had come up with recently. We're going to try to highlight a different school at each one of our meetings and let people know about some of the exciting things that are going on there. So the first one in this rotation is going to be from Masons Cove Elementary School, Miss Amy Phillips.
Yes, and I just came, Mr. Chairman and board members and Dr. Nicely, just to do a brief introduction to Ms. Phelps and what we're doing with the school spotlights. We'll be bringing a school to you each month, whether it be secondary or elementary. And like you shared, just to hear some of the exciting things that are going on in the schools. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Phelps.
Thank you, Dr. Hogan.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Nicely. I'm really excited to get to share about Masons Cove Elementary. It's a fantastic school. I know that you guys have many schools in the division that you have to monitor and to take care of, but as the principal at Masons Cove, I think ours is unique and special. So just to illustrate, I wanted to share a little bit about our attendance zone. We have a really large attendance zone. We're the smallest school as far as size in Roanoke County. We have about 200 students, but we have an attendance zone that stretches down to Montgomery County, up to Craig, and then over to Botetourt. So sometimes when it's a snow day and no one else knows why, it might be us.
You're causing that.
We also have a pretty, because of that large area and the terrain, like the mountains and things around, we do have some areas that have difficulty with internet access, which makes things a little bit more complicated. We have some areas that do not get cell service. They've worked really hard last fall. Jeff Terry and I worked really hard to figure out some solutions, and we found some that work and some that we know don't work. But we've got a great school, and there's a lot of really good benefits to living out in a rural community. So because we're small, our school has a great community feel to it. Parents participate, students are really engaged. A lot of the kids know each other. They know all the teachers in the building, which makes it have a really good feel to it and just feel very special. Our school was completely rebuilt in 2011, so it's a very nice facility. We're very thankful for that. And again, our community is very supportive. We have a lot of local churches that reach out to help us with things that we might need or just to offer support in different events. So as an elementary school, our focus is really building that foundation of instruction and also helping our students to really enjoy being there. As elementary school, we want them to enjoy coming to school. They have to have fun. We have to set that groundwork for them to know that education can be fun, it's engaging, it's rewarding to be a part of. We have a fantastic staff, and I'm not just saying that because I'm there. The teachers have always worked really hard and put students first at that school, which I think makes it really unique. They're a very hardworking group. Many of the teachers in the building know every student in the building, even though they haven't taught them, just because we've got that community feel in our school, which I think really adds to the experience that the kids have. Elementary instruction is really based on small group instruction, and so that's embedded throughout our curriculum. Small group instruction helps our students to get more of an individualized instruction because the teacher has them in smaller groups. They get more feedback immediately, and they also feel more confident taking chances or answering questions because they're in smaller groups rather than with the whole class. We have a fantastic Encore staff and school counselor. You know, Encore teachers are our art, music, PE, and library. A lot of people think that those are some extra classes that our students are offered. Those teachers have those kids from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. So they get those students for 6 years. So that's a really positive and valuable relationship that we like to really encourage. We have teachers that do some fantastic things. Our librarian is doing a book buddies kind of system where students can check out books together and practice reading with one another. She has a coding station in the library as well. Our art teacher does different school-wide art projects where the kids participate, contribute, and then create art that is all collaborative and school-wide, which also contributes to that feeling of community. We have great PE and music teachers who like to collaborate. They have a very fun name for their learning experience. They like to say it, but I don't think I can read it all together. PE and Music Collaborative Learning Lollapalooza Super Fun Zone Spectacular Extravaganza, where the students mesh different parts of music and PE together, and the kids love it. They have a great time, which makes them really enjoy those encore classes. A lot of these pictures are pre-COVID, so there's not a lot of masks featured. We celebrate Read Across America. We have an amazing cafeteria manager. The second picture you see is the setup she has for Thanksgiving. She does that every year. So she really likes to make it special. 5th grade does a lot of different projects. We like to give them an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge. So they had an element parade when they were studying the periodic table. So they were allowed to create a poster on their selected element. Different grade levels got to ask them questions. And then different staff members went around and we also asked them different questions and gave them feedback on what they had done. And that last picture was a very exciting fun run reward. And I can tell you that that is not as glamorous of an experience as it may appear. Every year, our students do a 5th grade Macy's Day Parade before Thanksgiving. It's a great chance for them to get to build and to use some of those STEM skills in putting different things together. We've got a wonderful 5th grade teacher that really works hard to come up with engaging activities that challenge the students but also let them have fun. They had a great time doing this. You can tell that they were pretty excited about their parade. Again, some of these other items were things that were also pre-COVID that we're excited to hopefully find a way to get back to. We had several Title I nights during the school year. For the last 4 years, we've hosted a flu shot clinic at our location. We've actually been the largest flu shot clinic in Roanoke County. So because of our location, we don't have a lot of doctor's offices, pharmacies, or things out in the Masons Cove district, and so we wanted to give families an opportunity to get flu shots and to bring that as a service to them, along with some of the events that we have, like Title I night. We had Career Day. We had the 4th and 5th graders take a trip to Burton and do some research on different careers, and they had to come back and think of how these different careers that they chose use reading and math and how that's applied at those careers. And then they dressed like their career, and they created a poster about how they would use reading and math in their career. And they displayed that. And again, we were allowed to walk around, see it during the school day, but it was also something that we did in the evening as well. We also had fourth and fifth grade famous people in history, where teachers were able to help students construct things during the day to display to their parents in the evening, so the parents could come through, take a look at some of the work, and also give them more of that authentic learning experience where we can ask them questions about what they know about their famous person in history, and just give the kids a chance to show off some of the things that they've learned and developed in school. And also wanted to highlight, I shared with you that we have a beautiful building, but we also have a really nice view. So there's some of the nice pictures taken. Amateur photography, none of those are professional, I think, except for the top one, but we've got a great view. We've got an awesome school. We would love for people to come out and see it and see how great we are making learning fun for all of our students.
Thank you, Ms. Phelps. I know that when we did that small little rezoning a couple of years ago, and the parents that had been sending their children to Glen Cove came out and saw what you had to offer, every one of them just, they were very excited to be able to move their kids over to Mason's Cove. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I got to visit that school a couple years ago. It's a beautiful school. It ought to be the standard for which we try to achieve the new elementary schools.
I thought the exact same thing. I was there yesterday,
Yep.
and it's a beautiful place. Thank you, Ms. Phelps. You do a great job out there. You and your staff are amazing.
Thank you.
Very learning friendly.
Yes. Item 7.02, COVID-19 funding review and information to request a budget increase on February 24th, 2022. Ms. Susan Peterson. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have three quick things to touch base with you on tonight. The first, if you recall, back on November 11th, I brought to you a request to apply for $17.8 million of additional COVID-19 funding. We have submitted those applications to VDOE, and they have approved $4.7 million. So staff went back and took a look at the grants, and attached to board docs is our recommended revision. So y'all can take a look at that to see the final amount that we will apply for these grants. So as you can imagine, for three of the main grants, the summer school, the extended learning, and the unfinished learning, the VDOE asked school divisions to just apply for what they wanted. So their applications far exceeded the amount of money that they had to hand out. So they took a two-step approach in handing this money out. They first assigned the lesser of the school's request, or the per pupil award based upon the participating schools within that grant. Then the remaining amounts were distributed based on the per pupil at the school division with the highest quartile of poverty. So that report is attached to board docs for your review. The second item that I want to touch base on is we have the opportunity to apply for just about $33,000 in additional special ed funding through the COVID-19, and that's on that same report. And then finally, with all of this funding and the ECF grant and the security grant, we have a larger increase in our capital fund, our minor capital fund, and our grants fund than what is in our budget currently. So I will be requesting a budget approval to increase the budget bottom line from you guys at the next meeting. And then I will follow up with a request for an ordinance from the county. It was very quick.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I think so.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Peterson.
All right, thank you.
Item number 7.03, COVID-19 update. Dr. Stigall. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nicely, I have some good numbers for you today. So let's take a look at our COVID report. Here's the first transmission level. The dates are January 30th through February 5th, and you can see we're at 22.4 positivity and 552 cases. They have been cut in more than half since the last report. So numbers are certainly coming down. Of course, you can see we're still in high transmission. It's going to take a while for us to drop out of that, but our numbers are going in the right direction. This one shows you the case per 100,000, same timeline. It shows you the 552 cases, but you can see the sharp decline in the graph there. And then here's our percent of positivity at 22.4, and you can also see the sharp decline there as well. Our rates of vaccination, they have continued to improve. So we were at 31.8 from ages 5 to 11. We're now at 33.5. In ages 12 to 15, we were at 61. We're now at 63. In ages 16 to 17, we were at 65 and we're at 67. So those numbers are gradually going up 2 to 3% every time I report. So that's good news as well. Total positive cases, of course, I've been showing you this. You can see February, we're only at the 10th. So even if you were to double those numbers, we're still in a very better place than we were in January. You can see the numbers were quite high in January. So it doesn't seem that February is going to be anywhere close to that. So those numbers are looking good. These are the total cases of positive cases for staff and students. And then if you look at the exposures, February through today, you can also see those numbers are low. If you were to double those numbers, you can still see that we're not going to be as high as we were in January. Although keeping in mind that February we're no longer contact tracing the same as we were before, so those numbers, of course, are going to be declining. Test to stay update, just wanted to let you know that the test kits, we did receive an email that they have shipped. They have not arrived yet, but they should be here soon. Our nurses met yesterday and went through this protocol and making sure they clearly understand it and asked any questions that they had. The test kits are not applicable for pre-K, and we didn't originally know that, but we did find that out in the documents, the most recent documents. So it's only K through 12. CDC does not recommend it for PK. So our pre-K students will not be able to participate in test to stay. And they also have changed it to where they're eventually allowing staff. They've asked us when we start the test to stay that to start with students first, get the hang of the process, make sure you have enough kits for the students. And then if you find out you do, you can start using those with staff. So that will be very beneficial to us for staff who need to quarantine. They can take the test and come to work. So that was all good news. So that's the only update I have. Any questions?
Any questions? Ms. Fashani, any questions? No, ma'am?
No, I just want to say, Rhonda, thank you for. There's a feedback on me. I'm sorry. I'll try to talk. Rhonda, thank you so much for all your hard work. I know it's been challenging, and you continue to do a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Stegall.
All right, thanks.
Item number 8, consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that. Madam Clerk, roll, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Cheryl?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Item number 9, 9.01, bus driver signing and recruitment bonus. Mr. Jim Bradshaw.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Nicely. Currently, we have 13 unfilled bus drivers, and this is making it very challenging to operate on a daily basis. As you know, we discussed last week, the way to cover these is we've been using our technicians, a lot of attendants, route supervisors, transportation supervisors, and pretty much anybody they can find over there to drive a bus has a CDL license. Staff is recommending we immediately implement the following: a signing bonus for all of our new drivers and aides, and it would be as followed. $1,000 would be for a bus driver that would come to us with basically zero experience. We have to train them, get their CDL, those kind of things. They would get a $1,000 signing bonus after 90 days. A $1,500 signing bonus would be for any bus driver that would come to us currently with a CDL. It would take a lot less time, a lot less training. We'd be able to get them in much quicker, obviously. And then finally, on the signing bonus, a $500 bonus for any of our bus aides, because we want to make sure that we're having buses that are full and we're able to fill our bus aides. The second part of this would be a recruitment bonus, and this would be for all Roanoke County employees. Basically, that would be a $500 bonus paid to any employee who would recruit a bus driver once that bus driver has completed 30 days of service. So in other words, they've gone through the training, they're actually driving around, it would be 30 days. And again, we would like to open that up to all RCS employees because truthfully, we don't care who refers them, we just want bus drivers. So we would like to recommend that for approval this evening.
Very good. Any questions?
make a motion that we, oh, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Do you feel that we may need to do something for our current drivers?
We would have to look into that. I know that we're trying to do everything we can as far as raises and those types of things, moving forward in the budget. So
Anytime
you're
we make
exactly
a-
right.
Anytime we make a decision like this, we don't want to offend the drivers that we have, and we want to reward them for being loyal. to us.
Understand. And the reason we're saying this, that we could do this right now, is we only have the 13 openings. So I know in my budget, I can handle that. If you start doing something for the entire bus fleet, if you will, then it would be a budgetary impact.
Sure.
Just not sure. So the answer to your question is we would definitely be looking at that. We've got to
appreciate
retain
that.
those drivers. We have great drivers.
Was it last year or 2 years ago we tried this similar approach and it was successful for us?
I believe it was 2 years ago, and it was very successful.
Question. Yes, so I'd make a motion that we approve the current request here as proposed.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Fishani. Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. All right, item number 10, hearing of citizens and delegations. We have 11 speakers that have signed up for this evening. And the first one is going to be Michelle Brooks. Welcome, Ms. Brooks.
Sorry, Chuck was like, there's gonna be so many people, and I'm like, no. Sorry.
Chuck was what?
He was saying earlier, he's just like, this room's gonna be packed. There's gonna be over 100 people.
He asked me if I brought my pillows.
Oh, sorry, I just find it amusing. Okay, sorry. Hi, I'm Michelle. I teach fourth grade reading at Penn Forest. I'm going to be talking tonight about salaries. If a seasoned teacher with a specialized skill set retires or chooses to leave Roanoke County Schools, it can take years for a novice teacher to develop strategies for teaching a particular subject. Personally, I was probably in years 9 or 10 before I hit my stride in teaching reading to upper elementary kids. Right now, I teach reading to 60 fourth graders at Penn Forest Elementary. I'm passionate about teaching reading. You come to my class, you're going to see it. I choose award-winning children's literature to introduce to my kids and to do my best to connect to all students because without connections to them, if I cannot connect with them, I cannot teach them. I love my job. Love it. I love my kids. For my 60 kids, I disaggregate data, and each child is assigned to a word study group and a reading skill group based on their individual needs. I have 16 word study groups and 14 reading skill groups. To prepare for just my small group instruction takes approximately 3 hours a week, plus time to make copies for word study groups. My whole group lesson plans take me approximately 3 to 4 hours a week to research, plan, and organize. This is in addition to the professional development, staff meetings, parent-teacher conferences, IEP meetings, child study meetings, time to meet with kids who are out on extended absences, and I can't forget grading. Since January, I come to school after church on Sundays with my 7-year-old to work an additional 3 to 4 hours because I can't get everything done. It's just too much. Some weekends, my friend and coworker will come over with her child so our children can play together, and they're occupied. So we can work, and we'll sit at my dining room table for hours just working. The loss of Wednesday afternoons to work, which was sacred time for me, has made me exhausted and frankly close to burning out. I want you to know at this time I have not signed my intent to return for next year. I don't know what I'm going to do. Should I stay in Roanoke County Schools? I love my coworkers, and honestly, the admin team at Penn Forest is one of the best teams I've ever worked for. They are amazing. However, even after inviting school board members into my classroom to observe what I do or answer questions about data collection that were posed in earlier school board meetings, I didn't even receive an acknowledgement from any school board member. This makes me, as a teacher, feel devalued. The pay in Roanoke County Schools is lackluster at best. My husband, after 7 years of nursing, makes $20,000 more a year with an associate's degree than I do with a master's degree plus 18 additional graduate hours of schooling. Do I go to another district? With my record of consistently high test scores and positive accolades from my admin, I know I can easily be picked up at another teaching position. Or do I leave teaching altogether due to the unnecessary attacks on my profession by those who have never taught or have not taught in several years and may not have the specialized skill set I have in reaching and teaching children how to read? Please keep in mind the amount of work, time, and effort we as teachers put in daily when you make decisions on budget for staff and teacher wages, because seasoned teachers and paraprofessionals in the classroom cannot be easily replicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Giving him more time, Chuck?
I can talk more.
Our next speaker is Winter Schossberger. Good evening.
I'm Winter Schossberger. I live in the Hollins district. Okay, so EO2 Directive 6 states school districts should marshal any resources available to improve inspection, testing, maintenance, repair, replacements, and upgrades of equipment to improve the indoor air quality in school facilities, including mechanical and non-mechanical heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, filtering, purification, fans, control systems, and window and door repair. The doors in our buildings must remain closed for safety reasons, and in several schools, the windows don't open. Of the 12 ACH readings that had been completed before last week's work session, 3 schools had less than the minimum 5 recommended air changes per hour, and 5 schools had less than the preferred number of 6. But that ACH was to be increased by the HEPA filter units in the buildings. However, not every room in the school occupied by students has a HEPA filter. Specifically, the spaces occupied by our learning specialists, encore classrooms like music, art, library, and gym, counselor offices, and the cafeteria do not have units. Some classroom teachers also do not have a unit if they were teaching their class virtually or in one of the spaces I mentioned above during the 2021 school year. In the rooms where there are HEPA filters, the units were not sized before placement. If the units were running on their highest setting in a 1,000 square foot room with an 8-foot ceiling height, they would only be offering a maximum changeover rate of once per hour. Many of our classrooms, band rooms, and labs exceed these dimensions both in square footage and ceiling height. In those rooms, the units are not contributing even 1 ACH. The units are loud. On high, which is the level which they must run in order to increase ACH rates, the units operate at 55 decibels. That's just 5 decibels less than a normal talking voice and is intrusive enough for someone close to the unit to have trouble hearing a lesson delivered from across the room. The units are visibly dirty. The upkeep of these units shouldn't be another task that gets added to the teacher workload because it isn't their responsibility to make sure our schools have adequate ACH. At the work session, it was said that parents don't know how hard the RCPS staff is working this year and how hard it has been to obtain human capital right now. We know how hard they're working. We are asking you to support them. The parents didn't put additional pressure on the workforce by giving them just 16 days to ensure that the other required layers of COVID mitigation were acceptable. With all due respect to this board, you voted to make this change knowing that you didn't have the human capital to complete the necessary preparation. If you have the financial capital to improve the ACH rates in our schools, marshal those resources and fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schlossberger. Next speaker, Tiffany Sandifer. Welcome.
Hello all. Tiffany Sandifer. I'm from the Benton District. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight about something less controversial than masks for a change. It's my great honor to speak to you tonight about my favorite topic, my kids. My kids are twice exceptional. They're both academically and artistically gifted and disabled. You'll hear from one of them tonight. And I believe that you will agree that I have much to be proud of as a mom. As a single mother, also disabled and working in healthcare during a pandemic, my work is deeply stressful. I, like everyone else, struggled to support my kids in their schooling during last year's school closures. Juggling a full-time job from home, a family total of 4 inpatient hospitalizations, 6 overnight ER visits during a pandemic, 28 monthly therapy and psychiatric appointments, plus 2 kids with special education needs home with me attempting to learn virtually while I worked was a bit unsustainable. And so, despite the fact that through my work, I knew the risks down to the minute detail and could follow statewide hospitalization trends among my vulnerable patients in real time, I sent them back to school full-time this fall. I needed help. They needed help. Within the first 9 weeks, it became clear that the lack of an in-person 8th grade year had failed to prepare my autistic daughter for high school, and that school was equally unprepared for her due to the fact that despite being autistic and displaying extreme school anxiety in spring 2020 before the closures, which resulted in hospitalization, the middle school felt she didn't meet the standards for an IEP. And so she had only a 504 plan entering high school. The IEP never happened. Her school anxiety was too severe, and she had to be pulled before the child's study could be completed. She is now on a reentry plan, and we're very excited about that. My younger child at William Byrd Middle School was unfairly deprived of instruction time due to being actively targeted for behaviors related to her disability. Despite me attending multiple meetings to educate admin and guidance staff about my child's disability, along with written correspondence, her disability was never accommodated by certain people within the school. Because we are following administrative processes to address this, I feel it imprudent to make additional comment about that specific issue. But I would like to say that we believe there is much to be learned by admin and staff regarding emotional and mental health disabilities. They're going to have to deal with these issues more and more as fallout from COVID, divisive politics, and escalating culture wars shake out in our schools. More kids are going to require more interventions, which means this board needs to start partnering with the Special Education Advocacy Committee and directing more funding for special education and psychological care and counseling in schools. There will need to be a laser focus on training and education for staff about how to deal with these disabled students in a way that fosters feelings of safety and trust. These students are going to multiply. They will. I hope the board will focus its energy on meeting their needs. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sandifer. Next speaker, Keely Meadows. Good evening.
My name is Keely Meadows. I'm an 8th grader at William Byrd Middle School, and I am a twice exceptional student with a disability recognized by Roanoke County Public Schools and an exceptional course load, currently taking all advanced classes. I am here today to talk about the mistreatment of underserved and disabled students like me in this district. When a student is first identified with a disability, there is a process in order to establish an IEP with that student that should start immediately after identified. In my case, I didn't even start that process until the next year, and actually creating the IEP took the entire first 9 weeks of school. I have a good friend who also happens to be a new student in the Roanoke County School District who is similarly disabled and was identified when first moving there, who still does not have an IEP in place. During that first 9 weeks, I lost instructional time in the amount of approximately 13 days due to being disciplined for behaviors regarding my disability. The school never identified or tested for these days to be called as disability-related days, which they have to do. This is a violation of federal and state law. Staff had treated me like I'm an army dog, yelling at me, which is a trigger for me. And certain staff members contacting my parents after administrators made sure we would not have contact with them. While in ISD with another disabled student, not to mention the student was very obviously overwhelmed, and after asking to take a walk, there was debate among staff members whether their IEP should be enforced or not. Students with disabilities have long been neglected by our school system, and that has only gotten worse during COVID due to the loudness of anti-maskers and those who don't seem to have an understanding of what disabled students need in this district. The board should focus less on culture wars and divisive political concepts and focus more on caring for the students and teachers and understanding that this is the future of our children. The board has lots of work to do to ensure that the special education needs get the support that they desperately need. We need to set our minds in the right place. I'm asking you, as a student who desperately wants and needs for my disability to return to school, to please consider the future of disabled students when making these decisions. If the school board decides to make masking optional, students don't have to wear masks, but teachers do. With most of the people in the building being unmasked, there will be particles in the air, obviously, that could get others sick. All that teachers and students are attempting to protect themselves will have is a mask and a vaccine, maybe, which does not completely eliminate the risk of catching COVID, obviously. This decision is huge since, because of current transmission rates, we could be out of 35% of our teachers if we make this decision now. Wait for the data, wait for the numbers. Viruses like this cannot be tracked over 2 weeks and have accurate set-in-stone results that we can use to make these choices. We need to look at the bigger picture, and that is the safety of the kids and teachers in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely.
Very nice.
Very well spoken. Next speaker, Elisa Downey. Good evening.
So I actually wrote some things down, so not all of them, but you know, it happens. Anyway, I'm Elisa Downey. You know me. I work at Oak Grove, also live in Oak Grove area. So, first of all, I know we can't name anyone, but I just want to thank someone on the board for saying thanks to teachers in the last work session. I feel like a lot of teachers aren't feeling super great right now, given some things that we've read about people's feelings about teachers recently. So saying thank you was really awesome, and I appreciate it. I'm actually here to talk about RCA today. I'm here to talk about you guys and anyone who's watching, because apparently there have been a lot of letters to the editor and things on Facebook that are wrong. So I would like to set the record straight and clear up any misconceptions, but I know they'll continue anyway. I want to say that we are a professional organization, and we have members, over 400 members, teachers, instructional assistant, bus drivers, therapists, administration, coordinators, IT workers, cafeteria workers, clerical staff, etc. So we are professionals. We are a union. That does not mean that we are going to strike. We do not strike. We don't strike in Virginia, and we would never endorse that. So we are a union, and we're advocating for what teachers need and think. Courtney and I are the vice president and president. We don't get paid. We are volunteers, just like every other teacher in the organization that works. It has been said that we do not represent teachers, but we are all teachers or public school workers. So obviously, by default, we represent teachers. And I just want you to know, public and everyone, that we are here to be part of the discussions. Courtney and I and everyone else who volunteers, we do this because we think it's important for teachers to have a seat at the table. We want to be part of the discussions. We want to be part of the problem solving. This is our job. This is our passion. We are in the classrooms. It's important to us. We care about students. And for some of the comments to say that we don't care about students because we have a different opinion is very false. We can have an opinion as a teacher, and it doesn't mean that it's political. It means that we have a different viewpoint because we're in the classrooms every day. We've been teaching in this pandemic for the third school year, which is something that a lot of people haven't done. So I just want to, clear that up. Also, it has been said that we are a liberal union, and it's all about politics. I would like to clear that up. We are a nonpartisan. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents, etc. in our ranks, and we have, the the same opinions and different opinions. The part of it that is political for NEA, VEA, and RCA is there is a committee. It's called the PAC committee. It's Political Action Committee. Zero dues go to that committee. Members have the option to give over and above to that committee, and people in that committee make the decisions on who we endorse. Same thing for VEA. That is the only part of it. And guess what? Here in RCA, we've endorsed Republicans, Democrats, and nonpartisan people. So I just would like everyone to understand that we are teachers. We have feelings. My time is up, though this is not working, Chuck. So I couldn't really tell. But when parents make these comments about us, it's very hurtful because we are giving our lives, so much of our lives to, because we believe in Roanoke County Public Schools. That's why we're here. And we just would appreciate some more careful words and some appreciation to your teachers. Thank a teacher. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Downey. Chuck, she was joking. Oh, no? Oh. You can have this one here if you'd like. Our next speaker is Laura Bowman. Good evening, Ms. Bowman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nicely, I would have preferred to wait until our area was in the yellow zone before removing layered protections against the transmission of COVID in our schools. Our schools exist in communities and community transmission rates remain high right now. I expect data-driven policymaking. That data includes the rate of transmission and vaccination rates in the community and how well local medical systems are managing. I'm worried we'll have outbreaks in our schools, causing students to have to learn from home, which may hurt them academically, cause even more work for their teachers, and inconvenience parents and caregivers. I worry about parents who can't work from home or have exhausted their paid work leave or are paid by the hour or aren't able to supervise their children while they learn from home. Additionally, I'm worried about children who are immunocompromised or have family members who are. On another issue, Mr. Lowe requested additional funds to better address custodial staffing issues. I was pleased to hear the board begin discussions on the value of keeping employees in-house versus outsourcing services. I've stood at this podium on prior occasions advocating for just that. I realize the decision to outsource custodial services has been for financial reasons, and I asked the board to recall my statement during your budget hearing on the 27th. The board really needs to push the state to better fund our schools. Mr. Lowe clearly stated that if the requested funding wasn't approved, SSC could give 60 days notice and walk away. A board member correctly said the board had no choice here. A vote was taken and the two freshman board members voted no. It begs the questions. Who did they think was going to clean and maintain the schools if the contract prematurely ended? Did they think Mr. Lowe would be able to quickly do what SSC has been struggling to do and quickly hire enough custodians? What about those 60 days when SSC continued to hold the contract without the resources to try and retain and recruit custodians? What type of training and mentoring is being provided to new school board members? Why is a board member asking the superintendent to look into a homeschooling program that's widely disparaged in the homeschooling community and is fraught with questionable content? Why are they promoting a tone-deaf COVID t-shirt for students? Why are they inappropriately using Rosa Parks and her role in the civil rights movement as a tool to push their agenda? I'm starting to say I told you so, and it brings me no gratification. I care about our school system and the people who learn and work in it, and I just want the best leadership for it. The board is under a microscope, and while I do sympathize at times, I also expect accountability and pragmatism in leadership, and I ask the board to better strive for those attributes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Speaker Rachel Worster. Welcome back.
My name is Rachel Worster, and I'm a teacher at Cave Spring Middle School. To the members of the board and Dr. Nicely, I was pleasantly surprised to see the proposed pay raises outlined in the last budget work session. I urge the board to raise the pay of teachers and stay competitive with surrounding districts. The past few years have been incredibly challenging, and raising teacher pay would help to show the board's commitment to its teachers. With an ongoing nationwide teacher shortage, we need to do everything we can to make Roanoke County a great place to teach. As a young teacher at the beginning of my career, teaching is seeming like a less and less sustainable career option with every year. You have the power to take some of that pressure off of your teachers and show us that this is the place to stay and be a teacher. On a separate note, I would like to ask the board not to move public comment in the future. Public comment is time for the board to hear from constituents before voting on any action items. I do not think making citizens wait to speak until after action has been taken is a good policy, and it could lead to more conflict at board meetings, which I don't think any of us want. It also sends the message that the board doesn't value public input. I do appreciate that the decision was explained, but hope in the future you won't make this change. I was also interested to hear the board's discussion regarding reading instruction in middle schools at the last work session. While I understand that the budget is limited, we owe it to our students to provide the best instruction possible from a qualified teacher. In my 6 years of education to become an English teacher, I never once had any coursework or instruction on teaching kids to read. And the same is true for the majority of my colleagues. I have taken the 10-week reading Radford class. While it was interesting and helpful, I'm not a specialist, nor do I have any experience teaching students basic reading skills. And the same is true for most secondary English teachers. If we want our struggling readers to be on grade level by high school, we need reading specialists who have spent years, not weeks, learning how to teach students to read. Asking English teachers to tack remedial reading instruction onto our classes doesn't give students who are struggling the time, attention, and one-on-one instruction that is needed to close reading gaps. Nor does it provide them with the experienced and knowledgeable teacher that they need and deserve. Which leads me to ask, how much would it cost to put a reading specialist in each middle school? If that is truly out of reach, could we hire fewer specialists and have them cover 2 schools? Would we be able to use some of our COVID funds for this purpose? Reading is a fundamental skill, and if we are serious about closing the gap for at-risk students, we need to provide each middle school with a trained, licensed reading instructor to make sure that all students achieve their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Megan Brown. Good evening, Ms. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nicely. My name is Megan Brown, and I spoke to you at the last meeting. I'm the parent of 2 girls at Oak Grove Elementary School. And tonight I'd like to tell you about my reaction to the last board meeting, in part. After the last board meeting, I was dismayed. I was disheartened at the decision to make masks optional in the face of the data and the testimony from the healthcare professionals in the room, including myself, the teachers and the staff who also spoke at the meeting. On a personal note, I now have an 8-year-old who's scared to go to school starting Monday. There's not a lot that I can do as a mom to help her other than to tell her, honey, you're vaccinated, so it's highly unlikely you're going to get sick. At the meeting last week, at the last meeting, I spoke about my concerns about the potential impact of increased quarantines, classroom closures, and even school closures on parents who work hourly jobs. I'm not one of those parents, so I was speaking to you from a place of privilege. There were a lot of things I didn't get to say at the meeting, and one of them was something that came to mind after I heard of the board's decision. And it was my experience a week prior in the emergency room at Carilion Roanoke Memorial Hospital. I had had a family member hospitalized, or at least admitted to the ER, and ended up sitting in the emergency room. And he was there for several nights because although there were open beds in the hospital, there were no nurses available to staff those beds. And as I sat in the emergency room as an experienced nurse who no longer works clinically, the thought that came to my mind was, is this the United States of America? I had never seen anything like it. When I heard the testimony of the local ER doctor at that meeting, and I heard her tell you that making masks optional as of Valentine's Day was her worst nightmare. I thought that that surely would have an effect on the board, and I understand now it did not. After the last meeting, I was also disheartened for a very different reason. And that was, without meaning any disrespect whatsoever, at the board meeting I watched, as a particular board member seemed not to listen to some but not all of the speakers. I watched as that board member failed to make eye contact, seemed preoccupied, seemed to be attending to some other personal business. I didn't know what, as many parents, including myself, shared deep concerns about the possibilities of making masks optional. Again, without meaning any disrespect, this was very disheartening. There were obviously differing views on the appropriateness of removing CDC recommended mitigation measures and making masks optional. But I hope that all members of the board will continue to listen, to pay attention, and to be respectful of the differing opinions and serious concerns of all of their constituents, whether or not they personally share those beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Martha Kilburn. Good evening.
I'm here to talk to you about a few of my concerns. As I've mentally reviewed the last few meetings, I've been shocked at some of the disrespect shown by some of the school board members. Like others, I noticed that some of our members seemed less than interested in what speakers were saying, particularly if they disagreed with their viewpoint. I think all of us attempt to teach respect to our children, but if you're interacting on your phone, it's fairly disrespectful. I'm also intrigued by the school board's support of bullying. I know this because the school policy 3.16 defines harassment bullying to mean any aggressive or unwanted behavior that is intended to intimidate or humiliate the target and involves a real or perceived imbalance of power between the aggressor and the target. It may be repeated over time and may cause severe emotional trauma. Yet 2 weeks ago, you allowed name calling on several occasions when individuals in favor of removing masks called others sheep. You want children to speak up when they see bullying, but you saw it and you approved it by your own inactions. I'm concerned about public comment. I've been able to attend some meetings, and some I've submitted public comment to. I'm not questioning our school board clerk. I'm questioning you. Was it received? Did you read it? No, really, did all 5 of you read my concerns or any of our concerns? Because I've looked and I see no record of it. Is public comment where concerns go to die, flush down the toilet because that's all the more attention that they are given? Then I have a question about the advisory committees. But then I'm reminded that the people above you said you had to have them, and fortunately they didn't say you needed to talk to them, since you've completely ignored them. I'm even forced to wonder why you can't answer any questions. See, when we started school in August, parents made the decision about the school year based on the knowledge that masks would be worn for the entire school year. The decision made on how to treat our kids by parents who supported masking and unmasking. But now you've changed the rules. A large portion of us here just want a clear plan. Based on data, using evidence-based criteria to decide when masks would be removed or possibly even reinstated. You can't tell us what the plan is to protect my masked child from the unmasked child sitting next to him in the classroom coughing. You can't tell me how I'm supposed to know the HVAC system is working because you're rushing to do the checks instead of spacing them out throughout the year. Then I pondered the question I heard several times in last week's work meeting. Why are we struggling to find employees? Why are other districts being more successful? I truly don't have the answer. A couple of these ladies shared it. Listening, sitting down and listening, hearing what the people have to say, your employees, your constituents, the students. We all knew masks weren't going to be here forever, but sit and listen. If you don't, you indicate that you don't care about people. If you don't care about them, then why would they want to come work for you? Thank you.
I'm back again, and thank you, members and Dr. Nicely. I'm Shirley Martin, and I'm a resident of Roanoke County in the Glenver area. I've lived in Roanoke County my entire life. And to see those athletes from Glenver pleased me so much because I've been involved in the athletic program practically all my life. So here I am. I'm coming from a little different standpoint from most of our speakers tonight. I have never in my entire life seen so much chaos in our nation. What happens in Washington ends up in Richmond, and what happens in Richmond ends up in Roanoke County. I want to remind everyone here tonight, it's probably I'm preaching to the choir, but we do have a control machine that's going on in our country. And there are people that have every desire whatsoever to control my life, your life, and rest of our citizens, and especially our children right now. When they see parents and grandparents are divided on issues, they are very pleased because a control person loves division, and they pursue that. And when we have division among our parents and grandparents, this is playing right into the seat of those control people. We can be respectful, even though we disagree. I was not here a few weeks ago at the meeting, but I understood there was a lot of disrespect from speakers to other speakers, and that's uncalled for. We might disagree, but if we both have the option of wanting to do what's best for our children, we better learn to get along. We better learn to have some unity. And I want us to remember that the mask has been one of the controlling factors as well. And I encourage people to do research on finding the issues that our nation is being controlled and who they're being controlled by. The mask is one thing, but there are other things that's down the pike. And I'm going to be here addressing those issues as well. Because what's best for our students is not what's coming from other people that are in control of or taking control of our students. Thank you much. Appreciate you all being here. Appreciate your work.
Get to follow them.
Ready? Good evening. It's actually good because I agree with the public comment. I think that should not be pushed to the end. And I think the idea of getting the filtration systems up to par, I think that's a good idea. People like to breathe, which is kind of the whole mask issue, right? So why am I even here? They have 1 day left, right? And then on the 14th, it's all optional. Just recently, I had a client. He had served 2 months in jail. The Commonwealth attorney let me know a few days before, we're not going to be prosecuting this case anymore. So I had other appointments, and I could have just said, well, he's already served that time. He has a few days. I'll just let him sit. But I didn't. I drove down, went to the jail, talked to him, said, hey, here's the deal. You can get out. I could go ahead and file a motion. He declined, but I explained to him, I said, I just want you to understand that one single day without liberty is a travesty. He still declined. And our students have suffered for 2 years, various forms, right? So, I'm here to say, hey, you guys could still lift this tonight. They could have one day. They love one day of freedom. One day of freedom's great. I'm looking at things and people are talking about the masks, and now, you guys have gone off the CDC, which I think is very flawed. But now the CDC is starting to say, well, one-way masking is effective. Use an N95 or an N100, N99. So you have that option. The people that want to protect their kids feel that it's going to protect them. Wear an N95. One-way masking is apparently kind of the new trend. I want to address you guys. You guys are in a red county. Now, I'm originally from New Jersey. I can tell you that's very blue. New Jersey is pulling off their mask mandates. They're saying they've had enough. Why? It's not really because of safety. It's because of polling numbers. They've looked at the polling numbers, and they've said, this is not what the people want. So you guys being in a red county, this whole thing has become politicized, no doubt. If you make that good faith gesture, maybe people remember it. And that's about it. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to start by thanking Ms. Phelps, principal at Mason's Cove, for leading off our school spotlight series at our school board meetings, and just want to thank her, of course, the teachers and staff at Mason's Cove for doing such a great job. And we look forward to hearing from more of our schools doing presentations at upcoming board meetings. But appreciate her being willing to kick that off. Also want to thank Coach Gruce at Cave Spring High School for inviting me to the basketball team's academic night last evening. And I thought to myself, well, what is an academic night? And so what they do is all the basketball players nominate a teacher that's been impactful in their life, and actually escort the teacher out before the game starts, out to the center court to be recognized and have their picture taken. And that was just a great way to recognize teachers and appreciate that combining of efforts from our sports teams, recognize them, what's happening in the classrooms. That was a great thing to be a part of. Roanoke County students and teachers continue to work hard academically. I just want to give a quick report about some things happening from our students. So we have 22 Roanoke County high school students who were selected to participate in the all-district band last Saturday, in which they come together with musicians from all over the region, and they spend the day working on pieces of music, and of course have a concert that evening. The middle schoolers, we had 21 Roanoke County middle schoolers selected for all-district band, which is going to be next week. 55 Roanoke County high school students were selected for all-district choir, which is going to be this Saturday, along with 64 middle school students. We had 17 Roanoke County students selected for the Virginia Tech Honor Band, which was held back on January 23rd. That's a great honor. Last Saturday, we had 53 Roanoke County students compete in the project forum over at the Roanoke Valley Governor's School, and several of them placed very well in that competition. Coming up in February on the 19th, a week from Saturday, Roanoke County students will have 77 high school students, 27 middle school students competing in our own Roanoke County Science Fair, and that's going to be over at Northside High School this year, so I invite everybody to come out for that. And just learned today we had 2 Roanoke County students having their amazing artwork selected for display in the Color Your Corner art competition for the Roanoke Pedestrian Safety Campaign. And Roanoke County art students have also painted over 100 canvases for the upcoming Best in Show event, which benefits the SPCA, and those are going to be for sale down on the city market at an upcoming event. So just appreciate and just cheer on and champion, and just so proud of all of our students and teachers who are making that happen. Finally, February is School Board Appreciation Month, and we see some of the displays up here. So we want to thank our school board members for your service, and look forward to continuing educational opportunities in Roanoke County. We have good things going. We want to see those things continue, and we think our best days are still ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Nicely. All right, item 12, reports and inquiries of board members. Ms. Fashani, is she still with us?
I'm here.
All right, any comments this evening?
I would just want to say that Bonsack Elementary, I was very impressed with what they're doing. I've actually been up to that school too, and I think it is a beautiful school and a beautiful environment, and I'm proud of all that they're doing. I also like to say that the Student Advisory Council, I'm very happy to see that that continues to be a success, and I'm looking forward to the next meeting and hearing how their conference goes. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fashani, and safe travels back to Roanoke tomorrow.
Thank you. One more day of work and mud out.
All right. Mr. Greenway.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have a few comments. First off, enforced classroom. I can't promise, but I'm going to try and go there tomorrow. So,
I'm serious. I've always had an open door policy.
well, I'm not sure if that's the best school, Oak Grove, because because there was some discussion last time. And if you invited us, and you may have, there were so many speakers, I may not have heard that. So I'm going to try and make an attempt to come out there tomorrow if I can. Yeah, you are welcome, and we do thank, even if we don't say it, sometimes we thank you for everything. And so we hope you sign back up and come back next year, right? Can we get the contract out?
Gotta see the money.
Well, and to that point, show me the money. So this board is committed. Every one of us have spoke about the need to get our pay back. And we did this 6 years ago. We did a study, and we got ourselves in the median group. We weren't the highest because a couple of the schools get a lot more funds than we do. But we're gonna address that, and I'm afraid to even give any hints because we haven't finished the budget session. But it help's coming, and we all want to get our teachers. I feel like, this sounds elitist, but I feel like, I'm from Roanoke County, right? And I think we've got the best, and we need to act like we do. So we're gonna make that attempt to get that right. But I am proud that every year I've been on the board, we've given raises. So that, and it is important to us. It is important to us. We recognize our teachers, and we have some of the best, no question. One quick question that came up in conversation with Courtney and Lisa. Dr. Nicely, could you see if we can find out? I know we spend, and maybe you can update us on this too. We're either at 87 or 88% of budget for salaries and payroll. Could you check for me on a couple of other localities to see what their percentage is, maybe surrounding and the hot topic areas? I thought it was a great question because it would be very informative to know that. We've had a good number of emails about teachers being masked and asking us, does this apply to us as well? And unfortunately, it doesn't. It's not something we can affect, but it's I think it's OSHA related, but it's in the code that we can't affect that. So teachers are not in the same category as the students. Got that. I want to say something. We had an excellent, Mr. Linden and I had an excellent, I'm going to speak specifically with Courtney and Elisa of the RCEA. And what a breath of fresh air. In all honesty, we have a past board member and a past president that I think keep things stirred up. I love that you're engaging us. I love that we may not agree on some things, but you're engaging us and talking to us. And I appreciate that. Are we going to agree on everything? Heck, I can't even get my wife to agree with me on things. So, but we are talking, right? And so You know, if there's 10 items, 8 or 9 of them we can push to the side, we agree. There's 1 or 2 that we need to work on. And by you talking to us has been more, I'll speak for me, but I think I can say the same for Mr. Linden. It's been more engaging, more discussion than we've had in the last 2 or 3 years. And we appreciate that, and we want to work with you. We want to recognize you. And I would say this to the folks listening. I believe you. If what I'm hearing is we're going to be non-political, non-divisive, I want the teachers to be represented, and I think this is a forum that we can do that. And I hope that you keep it that way, and I hope that this is a beginning of a really good relationship, you know, and that we can keep this dialogue going, because I want to move us forward as a division, as teachers, as board members, as staff all together. So thank you. And one last thing, the gentleman spoke about us being in a red county and polling numbers and so forth. And I'm not one of those good politicians. I don't give 2 rips about my polling numbers. I don't care what color county I'm in. The people can vote me out. In fact, if folks want to recall, that's fine too. I'm just not that guy that gets into the, you know, I've been called political. I've been said that I'm political. That's exactly what I preach against. And so that doesn't faze me. If compromising and getting this mask optional was the 14th, I stand by that decision. And it's not perfect. Yes, we'd have liked them out of it a long time ago. I've talked about that for 2 years, but I'm going to do what I think's right. And I think working with our teachers, working with our parents, working with staff, working with everybody to give them just a little bit of time and opportunities to get vaccinated if you want to. It just gave everybody a little bit of chance to get ready that mask optional was coming. And so that, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just letting you know, telling me you'll vote me out of office, that doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I'm not going to run again anyway. So somebody else gets to have this fun. And, you know, I left 4 grandchildren, a wife, and a daughter to come to this meeting to, you know, so it just doesn't move the needle for me. So thank you, and great night in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Greenway. Mr. Hudson.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. There's one speaker that I would like to address. I'll leave unnamed. You know, it was brought to everyone's attention that I'm the freshman on the board, and I'll accept and own that title. But with that, I would like to say, and it was not mentioned, maybe intentionally, maybe because she didn't know, but for many years I've overseen an entire governmental department budget, multi-million-dollar budget, in which I've sat on countless numbers of contract negotiations, and I know exactly how contracts in the government work. I do it on a daily basis. So as a taxpayer, like everyone in this room, when a company does not provide a service that is promised in a contract, there's no way that I'm going to vote to increase their salary by $50,000 a year. So on from that, I'd like to do a lot of shout outs tonight. Again, congratulations to Glenver Volleyball, Dr. Franklin, and their AD, Jason Murray. They do a great job out there. I was actually able to go out and watch some games. And also for one of their players, Stephen Barber, he scored his 1,000th point Friday at the Adam Ward Classic. I'd like to also recognize our school counselors. This is National School Counselors Week, and we all know that our school counselors have a tough job to begin with, and everything that they've had to endure over the last 2 years, I'd like to say thank you to them. They do a wonderful job. I know many of them from being inside of our schools for years. They do an excellent job, and Dr. Hughes does an excellent job overseeing that division. I'd like to thank Dr. Stegall for all of her hard work that she's put into this over the last few years. Dr. Stegall wears multiple hats. She not only does the COVID stuff, but she does many other things that I won't mention, but she does an excellent job at it, and I greatly appreciate everything you've done. Amy Phelps, principal of Masons Cove, I visit there quite frequently. That school is amazing. It's a great place to be. They're doing an excellent job there. I'd like to thank our clerk. Angela does an excellent job for us. I know you do a lot of hard work, and I don't think we mentioned you enough, so thank you for that. Getting on to what Mr. Greenway talked about, you know, today the inflation report came out for the last year, 7.5% inflation. So looking at that from my perspective and our teachers, we got the report in the last meeting that we're over 14% behind a couple localities, almost 9% behind Roanoke City. That's just not acceptable. So I want us to work very hard to pull every dime that we can to help our teachers. Our infrastructure doesn't teach kids. Our teachers teach our kids. It's what makes us great. It's what's made a difference in my life growing up as well as now, and all the interactions I've had with our teachers over the last 15 years. It's made an impact on my life, and I realize how important they are. And I know there's a lot of struggles, and that goes out to our bus drivers. If you've ever watched a bus driver film, most of you probably haven't, but I've watched many bus driver films for disciplinary reasons back when I was an SRO, and I'm gonna tell you, it's a job that I could not do. They do an excellent job at being safe, getting our kids to school and back home. And, we couldn't educate our kids if we couldn't get them there to the building. So they do a great job with that. And I'm just excited to hopefully be able to get some much needed raises for all of our staff. And moving forward, once we get past this mask issue, we can get on to things that are very important. So thanks everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Okay, I'll try to keep my comments brief. Tonight that almost felt like a night of healing after the first 5 weeks that we've had this year. Tonight's meeting I thought went well. Speakers were very polite and cordial. And when we work together, and trust me, this board wants to work with the citizens. We want to work with our teachers. We want to work with those that we may not agree with. When we work together and put these divisive issues aside, we can accomplish great things, and we need to do that. And hopefully tonight is the springboard to the start of that. We look forward to. We've got some big plans here coming up, and I'm glad tonight went well. I'm happy to report that we have tested all 26 schools with the velometer, and all of those schools are working as their systems were designed to work. So the airflow in the schools hopefully should be fine starting next week. And it is one mitigation strategy that we are glad that Chris Lowe and his crew was able to get taken care of and get some numbers. And Dr. Nicely, are those reports available? Okay. Gotcha. Well, good. That is public information if anybody feels the need to see that, but all the schools have been tested, so. Other than that, Dr. Nicely did mention School Board Appreciation Month, and thank you for all those students and teachers who took the time to put those together. We've got not only the ones up front here, but a big stack of them here, and I hate to play favorites, but this one kind of stood out to me, and it says, "Keep calm and let the Roanoke County School Board members handle it." So some people may agree with that or not, but a shout out to the.
You just did away with all the teachers are the greatest part of it. You know what I'm saying? What in the world? See, I think he needs a prompter.
I like this one. So a shout out to the second grade students there at Back Creek Elementary School. With that, meeting adjourned.